Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the brilliant 12th century mind of a renowned scholar named Ibn al-Jawzi. We're going to unpack his absolute masterpiece, Sayyid al-Khatir, to uncover a timeless, step-by-step guide to human psychology, self-discipline, and true self-mastery. Look, if you've ever felt like your own brain is just a chaotic, noisy place, or if you constantly struggle to balance your everyday life with your bigger, higher goals, you are going to find incredible value in what we're about to explore today.
So, Ibn al-Jawzi gave this incredibly practical piece of advice. Bind knowledge by writing it down. And honestly, we've literally all been there, right? You have this profound shower thought, this sudden moment of absolute clarity, and then, poof, it completely slips away because you got distracted by your phone or whatever. Well, Ibn al-Jawzi experienced this exact same frustration over 800 years ago. He realized that whenever he fell into deep contemplation, these amazing, unseen wonders would present themselves. But if he didn't write them down immediately, they vanished. This whole book was actually born out of that very human struggle to just hold on to wisdom.
Okay, let's unpack this concept of Sayyid al-Khatir. It translates beautifully to the catch of the mind. Think of it as a net specifically designed to capture those brilliant, fleeting insights before they completely disappear. The author pictured his own mind as this vast, deep ocean, and his reflections were like these rare, fast-moving fish darting through the water. So this entire text we're looking at, it's essentially his meticulously woven net. And the cool part is, by studying his net, we can figure out how to weave our own.
Now, to really build our net of understanding, we first have to ask a deeply foundational question about human psychology. Why is it that the second you're told you can't have something, it's literally all you want? Why do we crave the forbidden? The author observed this fascinating, almost universal pattern in human behavior. The more intensely something is prohibited, the more intensely our soul desires it. He points all the way back to the story of Adam, noting that despite having an entire paradise of trees to choose from, being forbidden from just one specific tree instantly skyrocketed his desire for it.
And this illustrates two really simple, undeniable psychological truths. First off, our souls absolutely hate being confined. It's like, if you decide to stay home all weekend, you feel perfectly fine. But the very second someone orders you to stay inside for even a day, suddenly you feel trapped and you're climbing the walls. Second, the soul instinctively resists authority. It relishes doing the unlawful simply because it feels like a rebellion. Recognizing this inner rebel within us is absolutely crucial. It's the very first step toward actual self-mastery.
So, this rebellious nature of the soul leads to a really dangerous contrast that the author points out. It's the difference between what he calls ignorant ascetics and true scholars. Now, ignorant ascetics are totally driven by emotion and performative piety. They kind of romanticize extreme poverty and isolate themselves from the world, thinking that makes them holy. But on the flip side, we have the true scholars. They are guided by pure intellect. They actively engage with society, earn a lawful living, and keep things balanced. The author warns that falling for the illusion of extreme performative piety can actually ruin people's lives.
In fact, Ibn al-Jawzi completely shatters the myth that extreme poverty somehow equals spiritual enlightenment. He boldly states, poverty is nothing but the illness of incapacity. Boom! He argues that people who intentionally abandon their careers to become beggars aren't showing spiritual strength at all. They're actually just becoming a massive burden on society. Worse, they often end up compromising their dignity and their core values just to survive, essentially selling their beliefs for a handout.
The real difference here lies in their underlying drivers. Think about the devout person who just isolates themselves in constant prayer. Ultimately, who are they benefiting? Just one person, themselves. That kind of blind devotion often just feeds the ego of the worshiper. But the informed scholar, the one who learns, teaches, and actively engages with the real world, they act as a foundational pillar for the entire community. True knowledge isn't meant to be hoarded away in a cave. It's meant to be acted upon to uplift everybody around you.
Because of this, he strictly warns against 4 highly toxic behaviors that are way too often disguised as being pious. We're talking about emptying your hands of all your wealth, starving yourself to the point of literal illness, abandoning your livelihood, and, this is a big one, neglecting basic hygiene. He points out that some people genuinely think walking around dirty or having foul breath makes them more detached from the physical world. But actually, no. Cleanliness is commanded. Ruining your physical health and offending people with terrible hygiene completely destroys your intellectual and spiritual focus.
Instead, he brings up this incredible insight from a companion of the Prophet, Salman, who said, "When the soul is assured of its provisions, it is at peace. Securing your basic needs, like having a solid roof over your head and enough food in the pantry, is not some shallow, worldly distraction. It is fundamentally crucial. The author compares the human soul to a barking dog. If you throw it a bone, it quiets down. When you finally take care of your fundamental needs, you unlock this peace of mind that frees up your intellect for much higher, deeper thinking.
Which leads us to honestly one of the most powerful metaphors in the whole text. Think of your physical body like a mount, like a strong horse carrying you on a really long, grueling journey. If you starve your horse, whip it mercilessly, and never let it rest, what's going to happen? It's going to collapse. And if your mount collapses, you are literally never going to reach your destination. Caring for your physical body is not a luxury. It is an absolute, non-negotiable prerequisite if you want to succeed intellectually or spiritually.
So how do we keep that mount healthy? Well, moderation is the ultimate key here, and he lays out 4 super practical rules. Number 1, eat enough to preserve your intellect, but don't stuff yourself until you're sluggish. Number 2, maintain impeccable cleanliness. He was a huge fan of the siwak, or toothstick. Number 3, protect yourself from extreme heat and cold because constant physical stress wears the body down over time. And number 4, rest your mind. Just like your muscles need sleep, your intellect needs downtime so it can bounce back sharp and ready to go. Okay, so once the physical body is well cared for, we can move on to a really practical, step-by-step approach for taming the soul itself. Look, you can't just bully yourself into good habits. You have to use a mix of discipline and diplomacy. Step 1 is counsel. Talk to yourself, reason with your desires, and remind yourself of your big-picture goals. Step 2 is distance. Just physically remove yourself from toxic environments and temptations. And if the rebel inside you is still fighting, then you move to Step 3, firm resolve. That's where you apply the strong whip of sheer willpower to stay on course.
This whole strategy of step-by-step diplomacy leads to a fascinating emotional shift, perfectly captured by the early scholar Abu Yazid, who said, "I kept pulling my soul toward God while it cried, until I pulled it smiling." And that right there is the secret sauce. The goal of all this intense self-discipline isn't to crush your spirit into some miserable robotic compliance. The actual goal is to train it, soothe it, and guide it gently. You do this so well that eventually it stops fighting you, and it learns to actually love doing the right thing, walking forward with a genuine smile. Now, as we start to master ourselves and our bodies, something amazing happens. Our desires actually elevate. We graduate from obsessive, stagnant, worldly passions into a constantly ascending divine love. The author notes that obsessive romantic infatuation usually happens when a person is intellectually stagnant. They get totally fixated on a superficial image and become totally blind to its flaws. But a person of high intellect, they're always ascending. Once they notice the inevitable human flaws, they detach. Their love naturally shifts away from this flawed sensory world and moves upward toward the perfect, flawless creator.
Which brings us to this absolutely beautiful realization. Whoever tastes the sweetness of knowing God finds within it the flavor of love. The author makes the case that when you truly look at the universe through the lens of your intellect, when you finally break through the superficial veil and recognize the masterful artisan behind every single masterpiece in nature, you literally can't help but fall in love. And that profound intellectual joy of understanding the Maker, it is infinitely sweeter and more satisfying than any fleeting physical pleasure this world could ever offer.
So, what does a truly successful life look like under this framework? It all boils down to true contentment. But notice the paradox here, because it's brilliant. True contentment means peacefully accepting the things you literally cannot control, the trials, the sudden losses, the health issues, as the decrees of a wise creator. However, you must never be content with your own laziness or your own character flaws. You have to accept the external world with total grace while fiercely and constantly striving for your own internal self-improvement. It's a game changer of a mindset.
As we wrap up this explainer on Ibn al-Jawzi's incredible, timeless framework, I want to leave you with one final, provocative question to think about today. What net are you using right now to capture your life's fleeting insights? We all experience these flashes of profound clarity, but without a system, without a structured Sad al-Khatir, they're just going to swim away forever. I really hope this breakdown has inspired you to start weaving your own net, balancing your intellect with your physical health, and finally capturing the incredible wisdom happening in your own life. Thanks so much for joining me.